Okay, so we are now going to discuss our rules for reading devices in our chemistry class. So what we said, kind of with the glug, is we had to look in between the markings. When our measurement was in between, we had to look in between those markings and we had to measure or estimate. And if it's a glug, that's so easy because the increments are so large, it's obvious. It's not as obvious always in chemistry because the markings are quite small. So we have to really be intentional with following these rules because it's not as natural as it is with the glug. So to go back, our rules. Step number 1 is we identify the smallest marking on the device. And we're going to kind of go over how that worked with the glug before and after we added the tape. We might have to work a little backwards right now. And 2, after we find the smallest marking, we have to estimate in between the markings to the next place in the number. Estimate is the important word here. We have to estimate. And we'll do that before and after the tape was added. But actually, we're going to start with after because my glug still has its tape on and it still has its markings. So when we look at the after, we took our glug and we put these markings on it. Each of these markings along the glug represented 0.1. We took our glug and we divided it into 10 equal increments. So each of these, the smallest marking was 0.1. When we were reading in between those two markings on our device, we were reading the next place, the second decimal place. So after we calibrated this or we added those markings, we read the second decimal place in the number. So it was 0.70 or 0.13. So that was the after. Before the device had the markings on it. And I could take the tape and show it to you, but I don't think it's going to fit on my camera anyway. So once I take this tape off, and we have our nice fresh glug with no markings. So you can see there's the end, there's the other end. There's no markings on our glug. All we had was this. This is the smallest marking on the glug, or the smallest increment. So the smallest marking on the glug before was the ones place, 1 glug. When we estimated in between, we called it 0.5, 0.7, 0.3. We were estimating that next place in the number. In that case, it was the first decimal place. So the before, we read 1 decimal place because the smallest marking was 1. Next, we made the smallest markings 0.1 and we estimated the second decimal place. So in just a minute, when you get to the next slide, we're going to talk about how this applies to the instruments in this class.